Nerf Gelfire versus XShot Hypergel. Let's find out which ones you should buy. Now obviously there are a lot more Nerf products here than there are XShot. So we'll start off by going through 4 standalone Nerf Gelfire blasters before we dive into our comparison of the most similar products from each range. Let's begin with the Nerf Ignitor. At around $10, this is your cheapest entry point into the gel blaster scene. It comes packaged with 300 hydrated Gelfire rounds, some protective eyewear, and here is the blaster. It's kind of funny looking. The blaster itself has a 60 round capacity and 2 tactical rails. Is it just me or does this look like a garden hose attachment? I'd personally say it's up there with one of Nerf's ugliest blasters. The Ignitor has what's called a T-pool priming method to ready your shots. It kind of reminds me of the Nerf Elite Ace and many other tiny dart blasters. To see how it performs, I've handmade a set of targets on black card, which should hopefully show up the shots a bit better. It's not working. These are the actual hydrated rounds that came with it, so I don't know why it keeps getting stuck. Here we go. It took quite a while for me to get this to actually work, and when it did work, the shots weren't that accurate at all. I'm going to call this terrible. Avoid buying this one and save your money for one of the other blasters in this video. The Nerf Dual Wield is a really intriguing set. For $30 you get 300 hydrated Gelfire rounds, 2 sets of protective eyewear, and 2 pistol-like blasters. With this set you have the choice whether to dual wield these yourself or to give one of the blasters to someone else, along with the extra set of protective eyewear to have a mini battle. Each of these blasters has a completely streamlined 100 round capacity. It's really sleek looking. And I will say that the Nerf Gelfire range has what I think is a really nice minimalistic style to it, although I'm not sure what happened to this one. What's really nice about these is that there's no priming needed, so you just pull the trigger and it fires. It's so simple. With the combination of the hydrated rounds and the instant firing method, these are some of the easiest pick up and play blasters. But these triggers are very long. They need to travel a lot in order to pull the spring inside back. So unless you have large hands, you'll find it a bit of a stretch to reach your finger around. You'll almost be pulling it with your fingertip, and that's one of the first things I noticed when holding these. Now let's go on to 2 blasters. Because of the force required to pull the triggers back, when you have a blaster in each hand, it's actually tough to keep it steady. Yeah, these triggers are really annoying. While I really love the style of these, it is a bit of a shame about the triggers and the performance. They are fun to dual wield, but just don't expect your shots to be super accurate beyond close range. I'd say to avoid this one. At $40 we have the Nerf Raid. It comes packaged with a much larger 10,000 dehydrated Gelfire rounds this time, an 800 round hopper, as well as some protective eyewear. And here we have the Raid itself. This blaster has one long tactical rail that runs along the top, although this hopper will get in the way of your view. Once again, I just love this clean design. You'll also notice that it has a slight gloss pattern here, which helps prevent it from being a bit too plain. One thing that's worth mentioning is that you will need to hydrate these 10,000 Gelfire rounds that it comes with. They need to be soaked in water for about 3 to 4 hours before using. So you may want to consider buying some of these refill packs that are already hydrated. The special thing about the Raid is that it's basically the equivalent of a shotgun style blaster. It has this pump action reload mechanism, which is really quite tough, and it fires 5 Gelfire rounds at the same time. This reload mechanism is really tiring after just a short amount of time. I'm guessing it's because you're pulling back 5 separate springs at once. I'm really interested to see how much these shots actually scatter though. This actually works incredibly well. It does scatter a little bit, which is what it's meant to do, but it's also really accurate, and this reload mechanism has loosened up a bit. This blaster is actually really cool once you open up that reload mechanism. This is worth buying. The final blaster before our comparison with the XShot range is a $50 Nerf Ghost. Inside it's packaged with 5,000 dehydrated Gelfire rounds and some protective eyewear. You also get an extended barrel attachment, which looks very long compared to the blaster. This has a built-in 100 round capacity, which yes, is much smaller than having a large hopper on top, but the fact that this keeps your line of sight completely clear is a big deal, especially for this blaster. It has an extendable stock which can lock into 4 different positions and 2 tactical rails, one on the blaster and one on the extended barrel attachment, which is supposed to help with extreme distance targeting. When it's all pieced together, look at the sheer length of this thing. It's just over 92 centimeters long, but you do have the ability to compact it down if that's an issue. And you see these sights, you can adjust these. It's quite an unusual feature for a gel blaster, or even a dart blaster for that matter. It does seem to suggest that this will be incredibly accurate, but we'll have to see about that. To look down these sights though, I found that I had to contort my neck and hold the stock quite high up on my shoulder just to be able to see through both reticles. It's not the most comfortable. The most insane part about this blaster though is that it can fire Gelfire rounds up to 200 feet per second. Just like the Raid was the equivalent of a shotgun, with a bolt action reload mechanism, this Ghost is very much like a long distance rifle. And because it fires 1 shot at a time, the 100 round capacity lasts longer than you might expect. This might be my new favourite blaster. The shots are unbelievably accurate, and look at how tightly they're grouped together. I really like this blaster. I would say to buy this one if you're interested. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Now that we have those out of the way, let's move on to our comparison where I've selected the most similar blasters from each range based on price and performance. Starting with the Nerf Gelfire range, we have the $20 Legion. In the box you get 300 hydrated Gelfire rounds, a 130 round hopper, some protective eyewear, and of course the Gelfire blaster itself. The size of the hopper really is quite small. I kind of wish they would have integrated it directly inside the blaster, kind of like some of the others we've already seen. The blaster itself has 2 tactical rails and a spring slamfire mechanism. This is really quite cool because it allows you to hold down on the trigger and repeatedly pull back on the slamfire mechanism to quickly fire off a load of shots. And because of how easy this is to pull back and the position of it, it doesn't really disrupt your aim too much. I also noticed that there is the ability to attach an extended barrel here, but it doesn't come packaged with one. Okay, so the shots aren't that powerful. You do have to aim the blaster up a bit at this distance. Let's try using that slamfire mechanism. It's not as accurate, but the power is more consistent. It's a straightforward blaster, the performance is good. For this one, it's worth considering. Up against it, we have XShot's $14 Hypergel clutch. Talk about value for money, there's so much here. This is packaged with 5,000 dehydrated Hypergel rounds, a magazine, a container to hydrate the rounds in, and some protective eyewear. Okay, this is quite a bit larger than I thought it would be. Just look at the size of it compared to the Nerf Legion. I did also notice that the design wraps around both sides of the blaster, unlike the Nerf, which tends to ignore one side. Interestingly, it has both this 100 round integrated hopper, as well as this 400 round magazine to top this hopper up with. You could remove the magazine and quite literally tip the Hypergel rounds directly into the hopper, which can get messy. And I will just add that this mag release button seems quite sharp and painful to press. The other option you have is to open up this flap on the magazine. When you do this and flip the blaster upside down, a little trap door opens up to let the Hypergel rounds pour directly into the hopper. It's not perfect, there will be quite a few rounds that fall back into the magazine, but it is a really nice solution to be able to carry around lots of extra rounds without having a huge hopper directly on top of the blaster. These Hypergel rounds though, the instructions recommend hydrating these for 4 to 6 hours, which is a lot longer than the 3 to 4 hours of the dehydrated Nerf rounds. But the XShot Hypergel rounds are a lot brighter, making them easier to see. It's just something to bear in mind when choosing between these two different brands. Elsewhere on the clutch we have one tactical rail and a pump action reload mechanism, which primes the blaster to fire up to 150 feet per second. And what do you think about the actual style of this? It's completely different to the clean look of the Nerf Gelfire range. I like them both, but I probably prefer the Nerf. Whoa, that's a lot more powerful! And because it's more powerful, it's actually a lot more accurate. And this is me firing it as fast as I can. It's not too bad. It's a solid blaster that you could consider buying at this lower price point. When it comes to the battle, the XShot wins. It has much stronger and more accurate shots. At $35, we have the Nerf Gelfire Uproar. It comes packaged with 10,000 dehydrated Gelfire rounds, 400 of which can be held in this hopper, and the usual protective eyewear. The Uproar has slightly different colours than the rest of the range. There's no light grey colours here at all. It's a fully automatic blaster that's powered by 8 AA batteries. That's a lot of batteries. This is a very loud blaster. Immediately, I will say this feels so good in the hands. It's compact, it's got some weight to it, it's super solid. The performance here is a big step up from all previous blasters, firing up to 7 rounds a second, and with a velocity of up to 150 feet per second. But there's only one firing mode, which is fully automatic. It's a very simple blaster. It does have a tactical rail, which is absolutely tiny, and it's largely blocked by this hopper. Speaking of which, it's kind of wonky when it's clicked in. This might just be mine though. Let's see how this performs. Wow, this feels really powerful. There's a slight curve to the shots, but it's predictable and you can correct that fairly easily. This isn't a semi-automatic blaster, and when I try to fire single shots, the accuracy is a little less consistent. I'm going to say that this is good to buy. It's very reliable and easy to use. This is up against the $40 XShot Hypergel Tracefire. Once again, very nice presentation. Where do I start? It comes with 10,000 dehydrated Hypergel rounds, an 850 round magazine, a container to hydrate the rounds in, and some protective eyewear. As well as the Tracefire blaster, you also get a stock attachment and a charging cable. And that's for this 800 mAh rechargeable battery. Now this has both a 600 round hopper and a separate 850 round magazine that works in the same way as the clutch. If you look down the top of the hopper, it kind of has a semi-usable sight on there. It's better than nothing. It has 3 tactical rails, but the longest one running along the top is mostly obscured by the hopper. And you see this semi-hidden switch here? Well, it did need some brute force to loosen it up a bit, but it allows you to adjust the power of your shots. The strongest of which fires up to 170 feet per second. This is the weakest setting, the middle setting, and the most powerful setting. The performance seems to be consistent throughout, so you're not going to get penalised for leaving it on the most powerful setting, apart from maybe slightly more battery drain. There's also a toggle above the grip, which switches between your safe mode, your semi-automatic and fully automatic firing modes. On top of this, we have the stock attachment, which is not the smoothest thing to connect. but it feels really solid once it's on. It's also worth noting that it's got a fairly unique connector, so don't expect it to work with many of your existing stock attachments. The thing that surprised me most about this though is just how solid it feels. It's not rattly like your typical XShot blaster. Even the trigger has a nice soft springy feel to it. You can probably tell there's a lot more features to play around with here, but let's see if it's actually any good. We'll start with some single shots on a semi-automatic setting. This is an interesting one. About 20% of the shots seem to misfire. Something's going on with the power here. And this is a full auto, so occasionally it fires 2 shots at once and those ones are lacking power. It's a bit off-putting while aiming. It's worth considering this one, there are a lot of features here. It's really close, but I'm going to give it to the Nerf Uproar, which edges it with the power and consistency of the shots. For the top tier Nerf, we have the Gelfire Mythic, which comes in at around $40. It's packaged with 1,600 hydrated Gelfire rounds, an 800 round hopper and some protective eyewear. Did you notice that both sides of this blaster has a logo graphic in colour? It's very rare to see from Nerf. You also get an extendable barrel attachment and a 500 mAh rechargeable battery pack. This charges with USB-C and it swaps out very easily, which is all super convenient. It is a little disappointing that you only get 2 hoppers worth of Gelfire rounds, but they are hydrated so you can just load up and start firing. Feature-wise, this switch here toggles between the safe mode, semi-automatic and fully automatic firing modes. It fires up to 10 rounds a second, with a velocity of up to 150 feet per second. The Mythic has 2 tactical rails, one tiny one on the front that is pretty much useless as it sits directly in front of the hopper, and one long one on the base of the blaster which is in an awkward position and a funny angle. I can't help but feel like they just put them there to fill the empty space. My favourite part about this though is both the barrel attachment and the extendable stock. You do have to press both buttons here to be able to extend the stock, and there are only 2 positions, fully extended or fully closed. But look how compact this thing can go. It's even smaller than the smallest XShot Hypergel blaster. I don't know how you feel, but these top loading hoppers are completely ruining the vibe of some of these blasters. With this extendable stock, you feel like you want to aim down the sight, but your view is completely blocked. That said, let's fire this thing. Starting with some single shots. This is a bit disappointing. The single shots don't seem powerful at all. And this is the fully automatic. Where's the accuracy? The shots are spraying out everywhere. I'm kind of shocked at the performance here. I would even go as far to say to avoid this one unless you can get it at a good price. It is also worth noting though that there is a Mr. Beast version of this blaster available. It comes with a smaller but much more streamlined 300 round hopper. It covers up the tactical rail on the front, but you have a much better line of sight. The Gelfire rounds also come in a blue and pink colourway. Personally, I prefer this colour range of the Mythic, but that option is out there if you'd rather have a more colourful blaster. To rival this, we have the $50 XShot Hypergel HPG 700. And look at the size of this box. It's packaged with a whopping 20,000 dehydrated Hypergel rounds. That's double of Nerf's highest offering from this whole range. A 700 round magazine, a container to hydrate the Hypergel rounds, and of course you also get the standard protective eyewear. The blaster has some nice weight to it. It also comes with a 2-part extendable barrel and a stock attachment. It's powered by a massive 2,000 mAh rechargeable battery pack, which gives it the power to fire up to an insane 200 feet per second. But it's not just powering the blaster. This 700 round magazine is one of the coolest things I've seen out of all of these blasters. You see these metal pins here? Well, it actually has a built-in motor that launches the Hypergel rounds into the blaster as you fire. And because the magazine is transparent, you can actually see this happening. This is amazing because it gives you a completely clear line of sight. There's no massive hoppers whatsoever blocking your view. There's 4 tactical rails in total, basically 1 on each side of the blaster, which is going to give you lots of options for customization. As with the traceFire, there is this power regulation switch on top, as well as a switch to toggle between the safe mode, semi-automatic and fully automatic firing mode. The stock is detachable, but once again, it is a proprietary connector, so your options are quite limited. The thing that surprised me the most is the build quality of this thing. XShot is renowned for having cheap, plasticky, rattly blasters, but this is one of their best. Let's find out how this performs. As far as single shots go, this is almost on par with the Nerf Ghost. This is really accurate. Now we're switching to fully automatic. This is ridiculous. Look at that accuracy. The performance is on another level compared to the Mythic. Okay, so I just realised with the power and speed of the shots, it's actually quite difficult to see where they hit the target on camera. Hopefully these camera angles show off that grouping a bit better. There's no 2 ways about it. This blaster is a must buy. The XShot dominates this battle and it's not even close. This gives you the absolute best performance, but there's so many different factors at play here. I personally prefer the style of the Nerf range, and it's really convenient to be able to buy hydrated rounds that are instantly ready to use. So, quick recap, out of everything here, I would say that these are the 4 blasters that are definitely worth buying. I hope you found all of this useful. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.